guys, so today I'm going to be talking about the head voice, also known as the upper register. This is a video for both male and female vocals, so guys, don't be put off. The head voice applies to you just the same. Before we get started, please do your vocal warm-ups. It's really important to make sure your voice is properly warmed up before you sing at all. We do have a video that you can use, a couple of warm-up videos, so please feel free to use those. Take your time. We don't want any vocal strain, especially when we're going into that upper register. The higher notes, they definitely need to be warmed up carefully and slowly. So once you've done that, you can come back and we'll get started. Doing regular vocal exercises is the fastest way to increase your vocal range. Your vocal cords need to be stretched over a long period of time. So if you have no routine in place, you won't have much flexibility and it will likely take much longer to develop a greater vocal range. The first thing I mention, as always, is breathing. You need to ensure that you're breathing in properly so as to support those higher notes. You need enough air to make sure that you're fully supporting them. This is because when singing higher notes, your vocal cords stretch and the more air you need to pass through, thus you tend to strain because your larynx goes up and then those muscles in your throat contract as your voice goes higher. By tightening your diaphragm and your pelvic floor, you're going to control the force of those high notes. So your diaphragm is right in the middle of your rib cage where they sort of curve downwards that way. Your diaphragm's in the middle there. So you want to tighten your diaphragm and also your pelvic floor, and then that lifts that air that's in your lungs and pushes out those high notes. Also, many of my teachers over the years have suggested raising your eyebrows when you're going to sing higher notes. I think it's partly psychological, that one, lifting your eyebrows to sort of help you reach those higher notes. You're more focused on lifting your voice upwards, and therefore those high notes are resonating on that soft palate. So that one just reminds you to lift up, but also when you lift your eyebrows when singing, it encourages you to open your mouth more fully. So obviously when we're singing the vowel sounds and they're the higher notes, it's more open, it sounds fuller. So you're lifting your eyebrows, hopefully you're opening your mouth more, and those high notes are sounding richer and fuller. It's important to find the balance with that one because you don't want your eyebrows to be rigidly raised up when singing. You might not feel quite so relaxed, which is really important when you're singing. You want to always feel nice and relaxed, so you don't want to be stuck with that emotion. And obviously, if you're singing a song, you want to be able to convey the emotions that you're singing. You're telling a story when you're singing a song, no matter what song it is. So if you're constantly stuck with a frozen expression of sort of surprised look, you won't be able to portray the emotions you might want to do in a song, unless obviously it's a song where you're continually surprised all the way through, but I don't think that every song is going to be like that. So get the balance right. It might help you, might psychologically help you reach up for those higher notes, help you open your mouth nice and full, but then you don't want to constantly be focused on that, so take that one with a pinch of salt. So let's talk about the soft palate. The soft palate is the most important thing to use when you are singing higher notes, and understanding how to use it properly when you are singing through your vocal range is going to make all the difference and how you can smoothly transition through to that upper register. So understanding how it feels, where it is all crucial in developing those high notes. So you've got obviously the hard palate at the front where you've got those bumps and ridges, then it goes smoother. So imagine obviously this is your mouth. Further back in the mouth, that's where the soft palate is, okay? So this part, the reason it's cushiony and soft is because it's able to move. You can raise the soft palate further back in the mouth, whereas obviously the hard palate just stays firm. And it's the raising of the soft palate is what we're trying to look for to do when we're singing high notes. So when you're singing up and pushing that sound, using your diaphragm, using your pelvic floor, when it's a higher note, it resonates at the back of your throat. So where that soft palate is, whereas chest voice, that's which I'll talk about in more depth in another video, goes forward. So chest, low notes, that all travels forward. Head voice, higher notes, they are pushing further upwards, okay? So into where that soft palate is, and that's what moves. And if we can lift the soft palate when we're singing, it gives you more room in your mouth. So having more space in your mouth is going to give you a fuller sound. So yeah, in a nutshell, The soft part that moves in the back of your mouth is your soft palate. And that's where we're aiming to push those high notes so that they sound full and pure. One of the best ways to identify it is to yawn. So if we all do a big yawn, you can feel it actually raises up at the back of your throat. So where you can feel the back of your mouth raising, again, that's where that soft palate is. When we are tired or bored, we can sometimes forget to breathe as effectively. So we yawn. Your body's aware that it needs more oxygen. So it raises up that soft palate, takes in a load of air, and any air that you've lost when you've not been breathing from boredom or tiredness is restored. So why is that important? Well, if we can take in more air that way by raising that soft palate, we can certainly sing out more fully by raising it again when we're actually pushing sound out. Again, one of my first singing teachers would always make us do a really big stretch at the beginning of a lesson to get all of our muscles nice and ready. Again, it's like a relaxed thing, and take a massive yawn. And so hopefully you've been able to feel that when doing that yawn, and great, you've identified where that soft palate is. And when you're singing those higher notes, you want to feel that raising. When singing, you will experience the sensation of vocal resonance. And by that, I mean the buzzing or vibrating sound that you feel in your mouth and throat when you're bringing that sound up. So when singing, try to identify where you can feel that buzzing feeling. The lower frequency sounds are felt in the chest cavity. Ah. When you sing a low note, or even speaking now, I can feel it, the resonance and the buzzing, that buzzing feeling in my chest. And that's because that's where that sound all is aimed. It's the lower part, it's your lower register. So you can really, really feel that vibration. If when singing you do feel the vocal resonance or that vibration here behind your nose, that means you're placing it just at your breaking point, which is something you really want to be mindful of, because when you're pushing the sound here, rather than forward where the chest voice is, if you can start to feel it here, that means that you are placing it at your breaking point, and it can often sound quite nasal. So this part here is often referred to as the mask, and you just want to be really mindful that your vocals don't come across shrill or nasal. And by singing and feeling that resonance behind the mask, it means that your placement is just there between the chest and the head voice. So you really want to select one or the other. The chest voice, which is forward, or the head voice, which is further back. It's resonating on that soft palate. Somewhere in the middle, around here, where you're pushing it here, that's going to sound a little bit nasal. I do have a video about the mixed voice and targeting that middle register, so be sure to check that one out if you just want a bit more info about how to conquer the mixed voice. But yes, the head voice. As I've said, the higher frequency sounds are felt in the soft palate. It feels like you're pushing that sound through the soft palate and upwards, and this is because when you're using the soft palate correctly, it lifts up. So if you imagine you've got an empty room, the sound echoes, doesn't it? Yeah? So if you've got a room that you haven't put any furniture or soft furnishings in yet, you can really hear your voice echo. So if your mouth is quite closed off, you're not going to get that echo. And then when using the soft palate correctly, it lifts up and allows more space in your mouth for that sound to resonate. More space in the room, the sound echoes, there's nothing to block or muffle that sound. But once you add soft furnishings, you start to lose that echo, don't you? And your mouth is the same. So obviously there's a lot of things going on in your mouth. You've got your tongue, you've got all those teeth, lots of different things that are there potentially blocking the sound when you're singing. So when you see people sing with quite a closed mouth, you'll notice that it's never going to sound full and pure and open. So just like you'd have an empty room, you're going to have an empty mouth, or as empty as it can be, lowering the tongue, keeping your teeth out the way, and raising that soft palate at the back, so you've got all that space for the sound to travel out, and it's going to sound fuller, just like an echoey room. Obviously, you can hear the echoes, they're much, much clearer. Now let's be clear. The sound does not travel out through the top of your head. There are no holes at the top of your head where that sound would come out. It still comes out through your mouth. That is the exit point for the sound. But because you've created that space, lifting that soft palate, it kind of feels like it is travelling out through the top of your head. And thus that's why it is referred to as the head voice, that upper register. The last thing you want to do when singing is make sure that your mouth is fully open. and elongated. So that sound can travel out and still sound pure. It's no good lifting your soft palate, using your diaphragm for control, breathing in fully when preparing to sing, only to block that sound on exit. So you want to give yourself every chance to get that full pure sound out through that exit point. So here's a couple of examples. I'm not going to open my mouth properly when I'm singing, so doing everything else, diaphragm's in place. I'm going to breathe in, but I'm not going to allow that sound to exit properly through my mouth. Now I'm going to open my mouth properly. I'm going to elongate that sound by lowering my jaw, keeping my tongue nice and low, so that when I'm singing, it is nice and full. Okay, so you can hear the difference, can't you? But this isn't about the chest voice, this is the head voice. So we're going to use a nice high note and you'll hear the difference. And this will sound very closed off if I'm not opening my mouth properly. I sang the note, I held the note was supported by my diaphragm, I had the air in my lungs to keep holding that note, but it didn't sound great, did it? Okay, so let's try that one again. So what a difference. Take a look in the mirror when you're singing. If you can see the back of your throat, you know that you've obviously left that passageway open for those higher notes, the notes from the higher register, to travel out. If your tongue's quite high in your mouth, you really want to attempt to try and lower it down. Obviously, your tongue is attached to your bottom jaw, so by lowering that, you should get that space, that passageway for that sound to come out and sound really nice and full and pure. So to strengthen your head voice, you need to use it. Shying away from songs with high notes is going to limit your capability significantly. And if you try to use the chest voice for higher notes that you really should be putting up into the head voice, you're going to get that nasal, shrill sound. Your vocals will sound really harsh, really clipped. You will also have no volume control as you have to really push your chest voice. It's not healthy and it doesn't sound good. Try selecting songs that are written in a higher key or songs that are made up mostly of higher notes where your voice is concerned. Sing through them very, very gently at first. No pressure of adding any volume. Just let your voice get used to singing these notes in that higher register and try using that yawn feeling resonance so that you know you are engaging your soft palate. Think choir sounds. Soft, clear, cool tones. Once you develop some confidence, try increasing that volume just a little bit. Make sure that you've got plenty of air in your lungs and use your diaphragm to support. Diaphragm's going to push the air up so that you can get a really nice, clear, high note. Once you can confidently identify how to use the upper register and the lower register, you'll find that switching between the two won't be such a challenge and you will have an abundance of song choices to pick from. No more avoiding those high notes. So find your upper register notes, address them, practice them, master them. I hope you found that this video has been helpful for the head voice. Please leave me a comment. If you have any questions at all, I'd be happy to help. Or if you've enjoyed the video, I'd love to hear from you. Be sure to subscribe to our channel. I'm Sophie on vocals from the Murphy School of Music.